Is he the worst filmmaker ever? I don't know. But he is the best worst filmmaker. Here are 5 schlocky things about Ed Wood. Number 1, his trashy, exploitative scripts. When Francois Truffaut was developing auteur theory in the 1950s, it's doubtful he had Edward D. Wood Jr. in mind. Yet Ed Wood was nothing if not an auteur. His signature works were the films that he not only directed, but wrote himself. Glen or Glenda, Bride of the Monster, Plan 9 from Outer Space. A classic Ed Wood screenplay was made of a few key ingredients: sensationalism, the suggestion of sex, which became more overt in his later work, and bizarre and awkward dialogue. But as shitty of a writer as Ed Wood was, his place in cinematic history was truly earned by, number 2, his stilted, lazy directing. Plan 9 from Outer Space is considered Ed Wood's magnum opus for a variety of reasons, not the least of which being the insight that it offers us into Wood as a director. The camera of Plan 9 rarely moves, scenes are constructed from as few shots as possible, and are awkwardly blocked with actors just sort of standing around stiffly in the frame, delivering their lines as though they had been ordered not to move. For most other filmmakers, these would be weaknesses, but for Ed Wood, they formed the foundation of his oddball aesthetic. Of course, this aesthetic was not entirely the result of Ed's questionable artistic choices. It was also the product of number 3, his Z-grade production values. There are B movies, there are C movies, and there are Ed Wood movies. Several times during Plan 9, we can see actors bumping into trees or tombstones, visibly jostling them, revealing them to be flimsy props. One scene takes place in an airport cockpit set that is almost nothing more than a curtain and a couple of chairs. Stock footage is used throughout, as well as Wood's infamous use of test footage of Bela Lugosi, who had died by the time the film actually went into production. And need I even mention the cheap plastic flying saucer models, which are used to represent alien spacecraft. In another classic Ed Wood movie, Bride of the Monster, there is this giant octopus that is obviously a motionless rubber prop. But don't let that fool you. That octopus is a killer. Just ask Bella. Number 4, his commitment to being simultaneously lurid and earnest. One of Ed Wood's first films was Glen or Glenda, which was produced by legendary sleaze merchant George Weiss in order to capitalize on public interest in the story of Christine Jorgensen, who was making headlines for undergoing gender confirmation surgery. In Wood's hands, Glen or Glenda is a clumsy, occasionally hallucinatory plea for tolerance and understanding. It sensationalizes cross-dressing and sex change operations, but it also depicts transvestites and transgender people not as freaks or perverts, but as ordinary people who just want to be allowed to live their lives in ways that make them happy. That's a pretty progressive message that seems quite out of place in the middle of a super low-budget horror / sexploitation film which co-stars an aging Bela Lugosi as God, I guess? Although Glen or Glenda is also a terrific example of the last thing I'll mention about Ed Wood. Number 5, his strangely compelling awfulness. Because while he was a poor writer, a technically incompetent director, and often just plain weird, one thing Ed Wood was not was boring. Okay, sometimes he was boring. Good luck getting through Jailbait. But his most well-known films possess this peculiar energy, which I'm actually a little tempted to call genius. Although that term seems completely inappropriate here. The movies are bad. The acting is wooden, the sets are cheap and obvious, the scripts are loopy and incoherent. Judged by conventional standards, Ed Wood does everything wrong. And yet, he is one of the most fascinating, compulsively watchable, and just plain fun filmmakers that I know of. And who knows, maybe someday one of Chris Wells' preposterous predictions will come true and I'll get to meet Ed's reanimated corpse. I think I'll shake his hand. The hardest part is picking only 5. Catch you next time. Hey folks, hope you enjoyed this one. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe, and also please consider helping me to make more videos like this one by supporting this channel through Patreon. You can go to patreon.com/Steve Shives to become a patron. Thanks for watching.